Alright guys, what's going on? So in this video I just wanted to talk about all of the CT roles on Mirage, and I just want to outline a few things that if you're not doing them, you will 100% guaranteed win more games if you do these things that I'm about to tell you for each of these spots. If you don't believe me, I'm a top 100 FACEIT player in North America. I've used all of these tactics, ideas, things on CT side to win more games, and I promise you, if you watch this whole video, there will be at least one thing that you are not doing if you're not already at the highest level, and even if you are, maybe you'll learn something. So I'm gonna go through every spot, all 5 of them, including AWP. There will be timestamps in the video, but you should watch all of them just in case you have to, fill a role you've never done before. So let's get into it. Okay, the first role I'm going to go over is A site anchor. I think that this role has some of the most important things that you have to do every single round for the team to be successful, even if you're in solo queue. There are a few things that you should always do regardless of if you're in a 5 queue or a solo queue. And that's if you have the best spawn like this right here or something, or any one on your team doesn't have a better spawn than you to go A, including the Conn player, you should always be mollying like this. So that specific lineup, because this fire blocks the vision of anybody who's trying to boost over and catch the Conn player crossing. That's the first thing you should always try to get off. And a tip, if you don't have the best spawn and your teammates are communicating with you, you can just tell them to molly it if they're spawned in front of you. Because it's very important that you get this molly off as soon as possible for a couple reasons. One, if the other team tries to run out through it with nothing, obviously they'll take a bunch of damage because it's there very quickly. And two, since it's there faster, if the other team's gonna run through it, you have more of a time in between them denying the molly and you reacting to it that you might be able to actually get some kills and call to your team that it's an A rush. So that's why you throw that molly. And then the other thing that you have to do as the A player is always throw a flash somewhere in this area. It can be there, it can be there, but you have to get this flash off as soon as possible. So as soon as you molly, just come here, flash like this, even flash like this, doesn't matter. And what you'll see from where they pop is that if I'm a terrorist coming out top mid and I'm rushing, unless I do this and jump out like that, right, which is kind of a bad fight, I'm eating a flashbang every single round, which means that I have to do something as the terrorist to counter this. But in the meantime, while that's happening, if they're playing anti-flash, your teammates, even solo queue teammates, will have a much easier time being around this area, and especially your AWPer also. If the other team buys AWP and comes here, right, your flash will destroy them, and your Conn player has a much easier time. So combine this molly with this flash every single round, and you're going to win more games. Okay, the next role I'm going to talk about is B site anchor. Don't be discouraged if you play this spot especially, because this role requires you to be very consistent and very on top of your game. If you fall asleep on this role, it's very possible that your team will lose a crucial round, like a 13-13 round where you don't expect them to come B, and then you're dead before you even know it. This spot is very important for your team's success, and if you play this position and evenly match with the other team, it's highly likely that your teammates on A, even in solo queue, will be doing fine, and it's just up to you to hold it down and always win. And then you're the X factor of the team in that case. So a few small details that you have to remember always when playing. You need to listen, and if he's not communicating in a solo queue game, you have to look at what your AWPer is doing. And usually the AWPer will go window, right? Usually in a game the AWPer will do this. And so what you have to look for is, where is my AWPer going? Because if, let's say your AWPer, your team starts 3A, don't break this vent, okay? You just don't even, just look at your minimap, You can see if there's 2 or 3 people coming, if nobody's going window, don't break the vent. And why do you do this? Well, let's say the other team, since you're in a 3A setup and you're not fighting for mid, let's say the other team boosts window and they come here. If this vent is broken and no one's holding it, they have crazy timings to go through here and just win the round straight up in a way that you don't expect. If you don't break this vent, it limits their options, so they have to come from somewhere like jungle. And typically when you're playing 3A, you've got a guy like here, you've got a guy here, ticket wherever. It'll be much easier to deal with them swinging jungle like this than the possibilities that open up from being able to walk, you know, through this area. So look out for that. That's the first detail. And the second detail is you always come here and you jump spot immediately. Just sprint here and just start doing this. And there's a lot of different, you know, spots to jump spot from. You can jump spot like this. You can do the pixel one. I don't really do this one that often because I feel like it's not that great, because if they pop on you, you're kind of fucked in the spot unless you're good and you can throw nades back. But jump spotting is very, very important. And why is that? So you have to think about where the bomb site is located versus how this place is above you and it's the only way in. You need to find a way to get information on when the other team is coming to you as soon as possible. Because if your only information comes, if you go here and go AFK and sit and hold this angle, you only know that they're coming B when they're already right in your face, and then it's way too late. How is your cat player gonna ever react? Even if you communicate to him, he's just totally always gonna be out of position if you let them up. So jump spotting is the #1 thing you should always do, and it can kind of get a little boring. But just remember that you're winning the round by doing this. You get so much information, and the amount of times that you're gonna die doing a jump spot vastly gets outweighed by the number of times you get away and are able to throw nades. The last thing that I would recommend on CT side is always just looking at your minimap when nothing's really happening. You know, when you're jump spotting, right? And you're, okay, nothing's happening. Glance by minimap. You see on the radar there's like 4 or 5 people mid. Just throw a flash like this for your team. And so if you throw a good flash and your teammate's like here, or like maybe even here in ladder, this flash will destroy the enemy team who's fighting mid. They can't really react to this flash because it comes, you know, they maybe have like a half a second to like turn, but they're not going to be turning if they're fighting mid, you know. This flash is very, very strong and it supports your team very well. Most of the time your A player won't be able to just drop whatever he's holding and flash, but since you are kind of just jump spotting, you're able to, you know, just like rip a flash like this, or like if it's like fast mid, you can rip a flash like this. So if you throw flashes like these and you're always jump spotting, I promise you, you will do very well at B, especially in lower level. A lot of people, just the things that you can't see, the intangibles about Counter-Strike, will make the other team lose and make you win. Alright, next I'm going to talk about Awping on this map. I'm not personally an Awper, but I know what I would want my Awper to be doing, especially in solo queue games. The main Awp start is starting window, and what you'll typically run into is at high level face it, everyone is throwing the instant window smokes, but in any case, people throw window smoke from T-spawn, right? So what you should learn as an Awper is you should learn mollies like this. So you go there and you run forward, and it mollies the boxes. And what this does, it eliminates positions that the other team can play and maybe force them to waste their util. And what you're doing is, now in this round, you've spent 1 molly on mid, and the other team has spent 2 smokes, which means that their options are getting more and more limited as the round goes on. And you know, maybe a Palace player will drop this smoke, now they only have 2 smokes. Maybe the B player will drop this smoke because it's solo queue and they're not talking, and now they only have 1 smoke to play the round with. Those are the kind of things you should think about. Like, what are high impact plays I can do when I'm getting blocked off even though I have the best gun? The second thing is that you cannot, unless you have a very, very good reason as to why you should sit window behind the smoke, there's not really any reason to stay here, since once the smoke fades, if they actually took mid, your fights are very, very bad with an op. You're not very versatile, and I wish I could fast forward on this offline server, but once this smoke dissipates, if you were to fight mid, there's like 50 angles that you have to be ready for, and with an op, it's hard to, you know, get shots off like that versus with a rifle, you know? So since you have this op, you should take the information that your team might be feeding you, and if they're not, then it just honestly take a 50-50 and rotate the ops somewhere more impactful. So the spots where that is would be here, holding market. You strengthen B if you think it's gonna end B, and then you can like strengthen cat from here and stuff. You have a very strong gun, or you can go ticket, and you go ticket. You can just hold ramp. You can also just hold palace, depends on where your team is. And if you want to become a very strong player, I really recommend having a radar that looks like mine, where you can see the whole map and see where your team on the bomb site is. And then once you gain a lot of experience, you'll be able to just quickly glance at it and realize what's being held and what you have to hold. So you can hold stuff like this. You can play on here if your team like has ramp or something. It really depends on where your teammates are, but that is the skill that you need to cultivate as an opper. It's like, okay, what are my teammates holding? What do they want me to hold? And then what do I need to hold? You know? So that's what I would recommend doing as an opper. And then the last thing that I think is very strong that not a lot of players think about is every round breaking this vent. If your cap player wants to be boosted ladder, one of the things, if the other team is good, and most of the time they won't even notice this, but it's a very small detail that could win you some rounds. If they come apps a lot, they will hear you break this vent. So from T-spawn, right, I'm here, I can hear you break this vent. But if I'm in apps, I can hear you break the ladder vent also very clearly. And so if you break it every round, it masks the play of boosting somebody here. Okay, the next role is cat. And this role is pretty abstract and loose. You don't have to play cat every round per se. You can go stack A. You can really just... This is one of the most versatile spots because it's not very likely that the other team is going to just be up here at the start of the round, right? So you going here with no purpose might not be the best decision. So your job as this cat player is to figure out where can I take aggressive fights that don't lose my team the round instantly by getting destroyed. A few of those are getting boosted into ladder room at the start of the round. So if you're duo queued or if your opper is communicating and they're like smoking window every round, you can just ask him to come and do this play and boost. And I mentioned in the op part of this video just before this that if you don't break this vent every round, the other team could hear you do this play, but especially at low level, they're definitely not paying attention to that, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But if you're a good player, I think if you want to be a good player, shooting this every round that you come here is a good idea. So getting boosted here, it really allows for you to take nice fights that are unexpected from the other side. They're not expecting you to do these plays. You can ask for a flash over mid from anybody and then like take fights out mid when they don't expect it, or just hold the run up if you want to play passive, stuff like that. This is a very impactful spot. You have access to a lot of parts of the map at once. You can see all of the A cross, you can fight mid, you can pivot to B instantly. This is probably the highest impact spot on this map besides Awping. So I would recommend, if you want to play this spot, you be very confident in your aim and you always are communicating with your teammates. Otherwise, you will kind of just do nothing here, and in Counter-Strike, somebody is required to get the kills in rounds, and a lot of the times it's a player in positions like Cat and connector, and I'm going to talk about connector in just a second. Okay, the last spot I want to talk about is connector, and this spot ties into the A player. So one tip I'll give you is if you are the connector player and you have a better spawn than your A player, I mentioned this in the A player section, you can go back and watch that if you didn't, but whoever has the better spawn out of you two, even if you're solo queue, should always molly. And in the A player section, I mentioned why you throw this molly like this, so you can go back and watch that. And then you also can throw this flash for yourself. So if you're in solo queue and your teammates don't really know what to do and they don't know how to flash mid, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal that you as the Conn player waste your flash. You might want your flash later round to throw things like this for your teammates, but throwing this flash is what you should just be forcing. If you throw it twice on accident, it's okay. Like if your A players also knows the right thing to do, then throwing it twice, it's fine. It's just a small mistake. It's not going to lose either round. A few things that you should try for if you're the connector player is that you should try to have good communication with your A player. So throughout your solo queue game, you know, don't be toxic. Don't like mute everybody. Don't make the A player upset by like saying something stupid. You should always have your A player in good terms, I guess, because the strongest play in connector is to get flashed late while the other team is in the open mid. So the A player can like throw a bunch of flashes wherever. But if you just ask him to flash over window, he'll probably do that. But if you ask him to flash over window, he'll cook something up for you, and you're able to swing and get these very, very easy kills on full blind players and then disengage. The other tip I'll give you if you're the connector player is find a good timing just after the early round to smoke Palace. Okay, and what this is currently the meta on this map is to cycle smokes Palace, because you don't want to lose a round to somebody who randomly, I wish I could fast forward, but a good lurk here will come up here, look at what's happening on the map, see that you're fighting mid hard, right? And then take a 50-50 on your teammate. And if he wins this 50-50 while you're in connector and your Awper is like window or something, this round is just totally chaotic and messed up now. But if you're able to smoke Palace, what that does for your A player is it gives him more breathing room to take fights that he actually wants instead of having to watch two things at once. People walking through the smoke is extremely rare, and if you're the ticket player and you see that, it's just a free kill. Like this guy's not, he's coming out of the smoke and you see his full body walking through the smoke, it's just a total free kill. So if you're the connector player, should definitely be throwing this smoke more often than not. And maybe you burn your smoke here. As the connector player, you can call your Awper, who probably has full nades, to just throw smoke like this if you get smoked window, you know? Throw smoke like this. Okay, those were just some basic solo queue tactics that you can use that will 100% guaranteed raise your win rate on Face It. I promise you. If it doesn't, send me an email and I won't respond because it's not true. I know for a fact that so many people in high elo Face It, you know, 3K plus, don't even do this. They don't even throw this flash. They throw a terrible molly. You know, they don't know what to do at cat. They just kind of like and die like a lot. So my best advice for playing Face It, and I'll say this in every video for every map, is you can win games that you never thought you could win just by doing very simple tactics with specific details like this that I outlined in this video. You can win so many games, you can bring it to your team, they're all very solid plays, and you will be much more successful. A lot of people on Face It seem to just kind of do random stuff that doesn't really make much sense. So if you stick to these guidelines and then build on top of them, your playbook is going to be very successful, and it's going to be crafted by you because you built the playbook and it's your playstyle. It's not my playstyle or anything. These are just very meta things. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, and if you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks.